can tell me about that time.
So we lost, I think, 97% of our corporates in a 10-day period. It was like you opened your computer and every email was, put on hold, I don't know when I'll be back. Put on hold, cancel, one after the other, after the other, after the other. It was tough, right?
Welcome back to the My First Business podcast. This is a mini episode where I take some of the best parts of my interviews with phenomenal entrepreneurs and chop it up for you like a snack.
This whole idea of opening your mind and seeing new opportunities and exploring different things, right? They're interconnected for me. Yeah. So that was probably like the first leap, was like, let me learn about things I know nothing about. Let me do something different, because you only have one life to live, right? So explore as many things as you can. And so I think that was probably the seed. Money for me, because also coming from banking, so much of the focus is on money. I think I was ready to move away from the focus on money, but as time goes and you have kids and they grow, and then you realize
like, oh yeah, that is important.
There is real life. We cannot just learn and have fun and be creative, right? And then, like, importantly, of course, is your actual company and the passion to do what you're doing and have an impact with what you're doing, and that kind of re-energizes you in a way that working for a company that wasn't one you created will never fulfill you in that same way. Absolutely.
You said at the start you didn't know what you were doing, which is the case for, I think, all of us. I want to talk to you about, was there a moment that flipped, in the sense that, was there a moment where you thought to yourself, I'm onto something good? Like, specifically that phrase jumped into your mind. This is where I need to be. We're on the right path. What was the first pivot point into where you were like, you know what, this is going to work?
Yeah, so Fruitful Day started by delivering fresh fruit to corporates, right? Boxes of fruits to offices. And, thank you. And very early on, we kind of reached out to our network of people that we knew from working in the DIFC, and just, friends and family that were so kind to order a box when we started. But the thing that was like, oh, wow, we are doing something different, is when employees of those companies called and said, your fruit tastes different. Why is it so good? It reminds me of what fruit tasted like at home. It's not like, it actually tastes the way it's supposed to taste. Can I order the same box from my home? So I realized that the curation, the love that we were putting in, really was making a difference, and people were excited to make the healthy choice. And it wasn't just about the office, they were looking to bring it home also. So I think that was one of the first positive signs that we were doing something special.
Yeah, so it's not just about hitting a number, it's just making that impact, right?
Yeah.
Well,
and listening to your customer.
Talk about listening to customers, right? Sometimes your customers can be yelling. When you were a B2B focused business, they're yelling, we're shut. We can't do this. We talked about feeling good about the business, but what was that feeling like when the pandemic hit and majority of your revenue just went under threat? Did you have a backup plan before this happened? Had you considered it? Did it build on something else? How did you get out of it? You can tell me the story in any context and as long as you want, but I want to hear, because I would be very broken at that point. And that was not too far into that was 5 years into your business, right? That happened?
Yeah.
You can tell me about that time.
So we lost, I think, 97% of our corporates in a 10-day period. It was like you opened your computer and every email was, put on hold, I don't know when I'll be back. Put on hold, cancel, one after the other, after the other, after the other. It was tough, right? I remember thinking, right, that was March 2020, and I remember thinking, okay, it's okay. We're fine till June 2020, for sure. We'll be back with those offices in June 2020. We can make it that far. And just, again, thank God I was so naive, right? I don't actually think being naive is a bad thing, because if we had known it'd been years, again, it would have seemed overwhelming. So we're back to that. So some of those corporates are just coming back now in 2023. So 3 months was actually 3 years. The good thing was that we were already delivering to homes. So back to listening to your customers, right? We had staff that was saying, can you deliver the same fruit to our homes? But it wasn't something we really had focused on in a major way to that point. It was just people were asking, we were delivering to homes, and we had started with our gifting solutions and our watermelon cakes. But it wasn't the biggest part of our business. It wasn't where most of our focus went. But thank God we had started it. We had an e-commerce site. It was just a realization that we need to completely move all energy into that part of the business. We already have the resources. We have the kitchen. We have the drivers. We have the right license to do it. Just move our energy. And that's what we did. And because we were...
Sorry, how long did it take between like those cancellation emails to you deciding you're going to go 100% into this?
I mean, it was like overnight, right?
Overnight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that there was so much thinking. It was just go, do it.
Yeah.
But this is where the opportunity is. And again, like if you're listening to your customers, it presents itself, because in fact, those offices in some cases were saying, we're shut, but we would love to send something to our staff that are now stuck at home. Do you do home delivery? We're like, yeah, actually we do. And so some of those corporates turned into home deliveries. And that actually turned into a big opportunity, because we could be delivering to 200 people's homes all of a sudden, whereas before it was a couple of boxes in the office. We focused all our resources on the home delivery. And actually, believe it or not, we still ended up growing that year just because of the shift over and how quickly we were able to grow the home segment.
Did you ever in that year kick yourself like, why weren't we doing this before?
No time for that. There was no time for that.
There was no time for
Just
that.
go.
That's interesting, because like when we got the same kind of emails within 10 days, all our clients, like we work on retainer, and clients are like, my shop's shut and I can't advertise for it. Like, can we cancel? But we don't have the luxury. We had the luxury. We're not heavy overhead business. We're a laptop business, and that's pretty much it. You had a lot more considerations. You had, how much staff did you have at that time?
Maybe 25 to 30, I would say.
Yeah.
At that time.
How would you find yourself communicating at that time with staff when things get this bleak for you?
We tried to focus on we're in it together, right? That we're all figuring this out together. And we know you're worried, and we can't say we're not worried, but we are on top of this. We will do whatever we can. And many of my staff have been with me since the very beginning, and they know that I always treat situations with kindness, right? And this was no different. And so in a time of need, they treated me with kindness too. And they said, whatever you need, you tell us. Mm-hmm. And we're there to help you also. And we just keeping that conversation going and being realistic about, we didn't know what would happen the next day, right? The rules were changing all the time.
Yeah. If you were to go back to that time, would you do anything differently?
It's a great question.
Knowing what you know now, in hindsight, is...
I mean, obviously, we would have prepared.
Apart from that.
But no, I'm so proud of us and the team and everything that we achieved that year.
Yeah.
I'm happy with what we did with a really difficult situation, and ultimately the impact that we had on people's lives, right? Because there weren't that many companies that could deliver get well soon gifts and care packages to homes in that period, but we had the correct licenses and we had the correct resources. And so I was so proud of what we achieved.
I'm glad you learned a lot from that too. Like, that was a pivot, right? Have you, and this is just like a thought in my mind, that every time we pivot, we kind of do overthink. And I think because the external circumstances are not forcing us, you get into a bit more like, oh, let's do the pros and cons. Oh, let's do the research. Oh, let's talk to a few people about this, which, I mean, are good things to do in general business terms. A lot of the people that have been on this podcast do their research really well before they jump into opportunity, now that they're into their second and third businesses. But that kind of circumstance forces you to do the pivot overnight, as you said. Is that held true for you since then? Have you tried any other pivots, whether it's going into a new market, or are those decisions a lot more thoughtful, and like, do you sleep on them, or have you found that, you just need to still run as fast as you did when COVID happened?
When making decisions, I try to focus on two things apart from the maths and the sort of planning element of it. And the first is like, is there actually a customer that has raised this in one way or another, where this, like a problem of some kind, and this could be the solution to that? So is this like something that's in my mind, or is this customer driven? And we've got over 40,000 customers now, so we have a lot of customers to listen to. So there are a lot of great ideas in there. So first, is it customer driven? And the second is like, does it sit with my gut? Because although you can do all the planning, it has to feel right. And the things that have been most successful for us as a business have really just felt right. The gut instinct was there.
All right, that's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed that teaser. I think you will love the full episode. I'll leave the links in the description below, or you can head on over to my website. It's nparvez.com. Before you head off, I have just one more question to ask you. Why haven't you subscribed yet?